Hi, I'm Debbie, or Dealer4519 on YouTube. In the ongoing story of my pathetic life, I have taken you up until into the into where I was in the 8th grade. And by this time, I had been in and out of foster homes for over a year. And I had decided that, well, let me start over. So DHR decided that, I should have therapy, counseling, talk to people. So while I was in foster homes, of course, I got that. But they made it an ongoing thing when they sent me home the final time, which was right before my 8th grade year. So every month, I think, I had to go to therapy. Well, instead of talking about my problems, I decided to learn more about how to deal with Gayle and her problems, because I wasn't the problem. Now, I'm 14 years old, or turning 14, but I'm figuring out that I'm not the problem, that I'm not the cause of the problem, and that I need to figure out how to put up with this. So believe it or not, my therapist agreed that learning to cope, is what she called it, would be a good idea. So she talked to me about the illness itself that Gayle had, well, that I had diagnosed her with, which was extremely spot on. But she talked to me about that, and she said, figure out who you're talking to, which person you're talking to before you start to talk. Maybe they'll have to lead the conversation. So some days she would pop in my room and say, do you want to play a game? Do you want to play Yahtzee? Or do you want to play Scrabble? And I would say, sure, and I'd go do that. Sometimes we'd play video games. There was one of the many Nintendo Entertainment Systems out. I don't know if it was the first one or the second one at this point, but I think it was the first. But we'd play Frogger and Donkey Kong. And then other days, she would lock herself in my mother's bedroom and she wouldn't come out. And that was fine with me too. But most of the time on those days, I got dressed and I left. Didn't matter where I was going, but I was going somewhere. And if I came home from school and she didn't say hello when I opened the door, I just moved on with my life, because it wasn't my job to make her greet me. And she was probably one of the people who didn't like me. And she'd try to start fights, but I'd ignore her. And I'm now... You're talking to someone who's 14 and learning all this from therapy. But it worked. And they'd come home drunk and my bedroom door would be locked and I would ignore them. In fact, at one point in the future, when this happened, they had to bust the door down to get in. But that was when I was in the 10th grade. And that's a whole different story and a set of crazy things that were going on at the time. I learned to ignore them. My mom would steer Gayle away from me when they were drinking. No, don't wake her up. Don't wake that bitch up. Well, I don't know if she meant that or not. But it didn't matter, because I didn't get woke up. I didn't be bothered. And my grades were still good, and I was in the 8th grade. And you believe it or not, nobody, not my teachers, not my other students. Well, there was a few other students who were my friends who knew, but nobody else. I mean, I carried on, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. I carried on as if, there was nothing going on at home, and nobody knew. What they remembered, though, and as adults, they told me this on Facebook, is that I was a very mean person, and that I was, a bully. But I wasn't a bully. They just did not know what I was going through at home, and I couldn't tell them. Not even now. Well, if they're watching this, they know. But if they're not watching it, I can't possibly explain to someone that my life was not yours. That I didn't get to go on, my parents didn't take me on vacations and field trips. I didn't get any of that. My mom wasn't a room mother. And I can't tell them all that. I'm not going to bother. It doesn't matter anyway, because it was a long time ago. And all of that would have changed my perspective on life, I think. But that's neither here nor there. The thing I'm most concerned with is getting to this. Back up a minute. In my last video, I talked about how foster parents did it for the money, and they didn't really care about the kids. And I don't remember the blow up that happened that got me taken away right before my 9th grade year, or during the summer after my 8th grade year. But I was put in a permanent placement at that time. Now, I'd been taken away so many times, I probably should have been permanently placed a long time ago, but it wouldn't have been the right fit. And I can tell you that now because I know what the right fit was. Well, it was hard for me, but I get it. So, right before my 9th grade year, and after my 8th grade year, I got taken away again. And this time, the foster, DHR worker, social worker, decided that I needed a permanent placement. And she put me in the same city that I was growing up in the same city I was going to school in, right down the road. In fact, I walked to school. There was a bus, but I really didn't mind walking. It was only like, I don't know, half a mile. And their name was the Adams. George and Kay Adams. And they had 3 daughters. And I'm pretty sure they were all biological. And they didn't like to take in teenagers, but I didn't know why. I don't think I was ever told why. They were more for little kids. But they took me in. And before school started, well, let me back up. These people were seriously religious. And keep in mind that though I was christened in a Methodist church, I had no idea whatsoever about seriously religious. They went to church every Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. They drove from Portage, which is where I'm from, 30 miles to Valparaiso to church. They were wonderful people. The church was amazing. They had major youth groups and Sunday school classes tailored to your, not just your age, but your level of intelligence and what you knew and didn't know and could understand and couldn't. And they gave out workbooks. They gave out reading material. And they gave me a lot more than that. They gave me my first real encounter with the Bible. I'd had Bibles before, but this time I was given a Bible. Not only was I given a Bible, I was given a thing that taught me how to read the Bible in 1 year. And it told you what dates you should read what exact chapter and verse. And it didn't take me a year. It took me about 6 months. Because I love to read. Reading was my thing. And music was my thing. But reading was easy. And so I read the Bible. The more I read, and the more I went to church, it started to change me. And I don't know in what way. Because I'm lost about that. But I do know that when we went to get school clothes, they didn't believe in women dressing like men. So I was given dress pants and dress shirts and dresses and pantyhose and 2 pair of shoes. And now the state pays for this. When you're in a permanent placement, the state gives the foster. I think they got $800 to re-wardrobe me. I mean, we didn't spend $800, but that's I think what's allowed. And I got a coat because in the winter I need a coat. But anyway, having said all this, if not for George and Kay Adams and their 3 great daughters, and the 9 months that I spent with the Adams family, no joke there, I wouldn't know God. I wouldn't know God like I do. And I believe that was the time the man upstairs realized that if I were going to live out this life, I would need God. Y'all have a good night.